Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a serious problem on our hands. And that problem is that modern gamers just have no standards anymore. I've noticed more and more whenever a new game drops, there tends to be a divide among the gaming community. Take something as big as Cyberpunk 2077 a couple years ago, where the game launched in a terrible, unplayable state, and there was tons of people calling this out, while another dedicated section of the internet was saying they just didn't notice it or didn't have those same issues.
Well, Cyberpunk 2077 came to Steam and it was mixed on day one, which is crazy because that's where I played the game first on a 3080. And that game was a buggy disaster. And then what you'll notice is under all the negative reviews where people were saying, yeah, this game runs like my butt, people were saying, update your graphics driver. Like that was going to solve anything.
Man, if I had a nickel for every time someone on Steam suggested updating your graphics driver for a game struggling with performance issues when there's thousands of people talking about said performance issues and there's even videos out covering the technical issues in the game.
Does the game not perform well? Update your graphics driver. Does the game have shallow combat? Update your graphics driver. Does the game have a terrible story that's rushed? Update the graphics driver.
Even in our small little corner of the internet here, which is our under 300 subscription brand new YouTube channel, we are still seeing this crap where gamers push back on us for simply criticizing something and demanding even a shred of quality in our games.
Well, in the Elden Ring hitbox video, the first video we ever did, we show very clear signs of hitboxes in Elden Ring DLC being broken. And someone comments, what's wrong with any of these? They all look fine to me. Or people in the Black Myth Wukong section saying, yeah, laughs in 4090 whenever Digital Foundry proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that regardless of your hardware, the game is still going to have some performance issues. Or even the Ready or Not video, where Ready or Not's AI is completely broken and kind of oscillates between John Wick and Simple Jack. There was one guy saying, don't know if you guys are just bags. I never noticed it. Is that you can not notice it all you want to. That doesn't mean it's not there. It's this lack of standards that's kind of got us to where we are now. So that kind of brings us into the first major point we want to talk about, which is the problem. Is the problem now is we've been so horribly beaten down by modern media that our standards are destroyed. They are sickeningly low. And part of what fuels that is you'll see games launch that are reasonably decent, like solid games that are good. They're not amazing, but they'll be hailed as masterpieces because by comparison, everything else is crap. I mean, look at Space Marines 2. Now, me and you both took vacation to play Space Marines 2. We took a week off. We're invested in this game. We wanted to like it. We had made preparations to play it. And when it launches, we both have what? I have a 3080. What do you have?
A 3080.
3080 as well. Neither one of us could run it in performance mode. It performed so poorly. So we both refunded, and yet here we are. People are hailing it as a masterpiece. Or Black Myth Wukong, you're the same thing. The game's all right. It's decent. It's not amazing. Visually it's incredible. The soundtrack's amazing. The combat's all right, but people are like, oh, greatest game ever played. Or even Helldivers 2, which is a fun game, launched with all sorts of problems and bugs and server issues and rootkits, and people are like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever played. Masterpiece, masterpiece, masterpiece.
Yes, the bar has been lowered to the point where average, mediocre, or sometimes even, decent games come out and people treat them like they're just these modern masterpieces because they're so beaten down by how much crap they've received here recently.
And because the bar is set so low, gamers are now willing to tolerate really shameless business practices that are wholly anti-consumer.
Denuvo is a big one, and I just saw it today with Final Fantasy 16 launching on Steam, and it seems like it's every other game release. It takes up just an inordinate amount of system resources that contributes to the game running like garbage. And then you have things like data collection, third-party apps that get installed with no warning, like Epic Game Services, these third-party launchers, which is even more egregious for people like us who primarily game on Steam on PC, where we bought the game on Steam. We want to launch from Steam, and you're forcing us to use these third-party launchers. Day one DLC, microtransactions that impact gameplay. As a former, ashamedly, Hearthstone and sports games player, I've been victimized by those many a times, but I am reformed. And then maybe even the latest hot topic that I particularly hate, which is paid early access, which we also saw with Space Marines 2, where you pay $30 additional to get the game 4 days early.
Yeah, you pay half the price of the game just to get 4 days, 3, 4 days ahead. Like that's not predatory. I don't know what is. But on top of all that crap, another issue you have, and that's just a sign of how broken we are as the gaming community. You have games that are just so woefully injected with politics.
Well, and you get these games like examples that come to mind recently, Borderlands 3 or Last of Us 2. These games are set in dystopian worlds where the absolute last thing on anyone's mind should be gender. They should be focused on staying alive, yet they somehow make their way to the forefront of these games.
Well, and the worst part is Borderlands 3 is a fun game. It's a good game. But every minute the characters spend speaking, I want to unalive myself because they're talking about some irrelevant thing that I don't care about. Like, oh, streamer culture. What are we doing? We cannot forget Abby from Last of Us 2, Gigantor herself, somehow is able to put on that much mass by eating 2 burritos.
Another trend that I don't think either of us are a big fan of is that creativity seems to be stifled, and a lot of the gaming industry seemingly run out of ideas. And when they do run out of ideas and make these remakes, they're often shameless cash grabs that don't even really have a reason to exist. I mean, take the Final Fantasy VII remakes. Why are we splitting the original game into three separate games other than being able to charge the consumer three times what you should be able to for a proper remake of that game?
Well, and they pad it all out with fluff too, like pointless side quests where you follow around a dog. Like, who wants to do this? There are a ton of other examples because you can feel however you want to about the Final Fantasy VII remake. A lot of people love it, and fair enough, that's how you feel. But one of the things you can't deny is that we're getting remakes and remasters for games that don't even need them. Like, why does Last of Us 2 need a remaster when it just came out in 2020? We do not need a remaster. We also don't need a remaster every other year of The Last of Us 1 or the 10,000th edition of Skyrim. But to be fair to the people making it, and Todd Howard even came out and said this in regard to Skyrim. He said, if you want us to stop releasing it, stop buying it.
Now, gamers are to blame when it comes to swearing blind loyalty to any of these companies that release a good game. I think we can both agree. We both hold The Witcher 3 in very high regard, but as soon as Cyberpunk 2077 launched in the state that it did, all that goodwill went out the window. Or at least it should have, but a lot of gamers still gave them the benefit of the doubt and still to this day are praising them for updating the game.
Here's the issue I have. They knew beyond the shadow of a doubt Cyberpunk 2077 was broken. They knew. And what they spent the last few months doing is making a polished demo to fool everyone into thinking it's fine when it's not. Like, you're dead to me at that point. You're dead to me. Never again will I trust you the way I did whenever you made The Witcher 3. That's gone. And even worse still, these people had the gall to release a $30 paid DLC.
Well, another problem that we can kind of put on the gamers ourselves is we're willing to devote massive chunks of time grinding games before they ever actually get good. Something like Destiny comes to mind.
Or even Warframe. Warframe does that too. People like, you have to spend 100 hours in it before it gets good. It's like, I don't have that kind of time.
Well, not only that, it creates more predatory live service nonsense where they try to keep you coming back every 2 weeks, 4 weeks for new limited time content you can only get then.
Well, I'm okay with limited time content, but the problem is you lock it behind this paid battle pass, which incentivizes players to play the game even when they don't want to. And I think that's a bit much. Like, I'll play whenever I want to play this game, and trying to abuse my psychology and use it against me is not something I want to reward. But thankfully, we can fix all these problems, and they're really easy to fix, even though there are many problems. But that's going to require us doing several things.
The way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it.
It's going to require us, as we talked about earlier, to never buy games sight unseen. Don't believe the hype monkeys. Don't allow streamers to dictate your behavior. Do your research before you buy these games. You deserve a good game for the price that you're paying.
Another thing that's been said over and over again, but never pre-order games.
16 times the detail.
We've been burned so many times by the hype, and so many times it's failed. These games have failed to deliver. And on top of never pre-ordering, also never pay the $30 early access for 3 to 4 days early, because if you keep doing it, it's going to keep ramping up, and before you know it, you're going to be paying $100 for early access and then another $200 for the game.
Like, what message do you think these companies are going to receive if whenever they do this, it's a success like Space Brains 2, they get 100,000 buys just to get a few days early access? They're going to keep doing that crap. So please, stop it here, nip it in the bud, destroy it.
And mind you, in the case of Space Marines 2, there's nowhere near enough content in that game to possibly justify paying $90 for it. Another thing that's on us is we have to be judicious when approaching these early access games. And in this context, when I say early access, we're not talking about the pay $30 for 4 days early access. We're talking about games that come out clearly unfinished, where the developer says we will continuously update it over time until it's in the proper state and we release it 1.0. And a lot of these games end up feeling like a bit of a rug pull, because you get these games like Ark Survival Evolved, where they come out in 2015 in early access, full release in 2017, but we're here in 2024 and the game still runs terribly and has a million bugs.
I'm really unsympathetic when it comes to people releasing games in early access and then screwing me over by just taking my money and running. But because you have bad examples doesn't mean that we should throw the good out with the bad, because you do have good examples in games that I want to support and creators that I want to support for doing good work. I mean, just look at Gunfire Reborn. Gunfire Reborn's an amazing game. I recommend you buy it right now. They have consistently added more and more and more, and the game's what, $20? And that's not even on sale. It's a great game with a lot of replay value for a cheap price, and that's constantly being updated and revamped and adding new characters. I'm more than happy to support the devs like the one behind Gunfire Reborn.
And the important thing to note with that Gunfire Reborn example is you can see where the money went into improving the game, not a quick cash grab and then just leaving with an unfinished product.
Or you can also add Valheim to that list. Valheim's an incredible game made by a very small team that may not have been able to continue producing content had they not been continuously supported through early access. But now it looks like they're able to add quite a bit to the game, and that game's incredible. It's one of my most played games on Steam. But again, it just requires you to be judicious and do your research when looking into these games.
And another thing to stay judicious about is we just have to flat out say no to all microtransactions, invasive third-party apps, invasive software like Denuvo, anything that has kernel-level access to your system, battle passes, any of these predatory things that we talked about earlier, we just have to say no, full stop.
Well, and we've seen, and we'll say later on, that there have come times when gamers bare their fangs and demand change, and it happens. We just have to be consistent. So we can get our way if we're just stubborn enough to enforce our will upon these companies. But speaking of enforcing our will upon companies, one thing we got to do, fellas, kill live service games. Please, for the love of God, kill live service games. Live service games are predatory. They're soulless. They prey on the simplest souls among us. All these retarded kids out here playing Fortnite, Genshin Impact, Call of Duty Warzone, games like that.
Like Zoink Scoob, I think she's got an extra chromosome. Ruh-roh, Raggy, retard!
Furthermore, don't give in to FOMO. Very rarely are you missing out on anything that's worthwhile. One of the things I feel like we've lost as we play games is we should be playing the games for fun and not out of a sense of obligation. But FOMO is rarely worth it. Don't give in to that crap. But now to move on to something we talked about earlier, which is don't be afraid to demand change. And I hate to even put it like that. That sounds kind of cringy and gay. But one of the things that's been proven is if there is enough backlash, we can get these companies to walk back some bad decisions. Do not forget what happened to Helldivers 2. Sony was saying you needed to have a PSN account just to play the game, but that was going to lock out people in other countries from playing it. And the gaming community just raised all sorts of ruckus and got them to change course. If we did that consistently about a lot of this crap, you'd be amazed how much we could change. And in order to get the industry back to where it needs to be, we're going to have to do that quite often. Because no one, I've noticed this, no one thinks we're in a good place. No one likes where we are. But it's going to take being that guy, being a Karen for just a little while to get things back to where they need to be.
Unfortunately, we must demand to speak to their manager.
And finally, when it comes to some of these solutions, don't forget the companies that have wronged you. I'm thinking particularly with Cyberpunk 2077. You know, we talked earlier about the Phantom Liberty DLC launching at $30. And I'm shocked how many people took this one lying down. I am shocked how many people were more than happy to pay $30 for that DLC when the game came out broken. That DLC should have been free. And I'm just going to say, you're a retard if you paid for that. You're stupid, and you're part of the problem if you paid for that crap.
I'm retarded?
That should have been free considering how badly we were bamboozled. So don't forget that. Now, let me also say that you will have developers and studios like Hello Games who did the right thing. And so while we should hold these companies to account, we should also be willing to forgive as they prove themselves worthy of our forgiveness. CD Projekt Red didn't do that with Cyberpunk 2077. Hello Games did that with No Man's Sky. Because although No Man's Sky had a terrible, rocky, horrible start, look at where they are now. Because what? No Man's Sky launched in 2016? And they're still updating the game.
Well, we've discussed the problem and the solution, but really the base conclusion here is our money entitles us to quality. Our money entitles us to have high expectations. We do not have to have pity on these game devs when they make an inexcusably bad game. Yes, they worked hard on the games, and people love to say, well, don't criticize the devs, they worked hard, but you also worked hard for the money you used to pay for that game.
Sometimes it's not the dev's fault, sometimes it is. But regardless, I mean, whoever's fault it is, whether it's the publisher, the developers, the people at the top over them, I really don't care. The bottom line is corporations are not your friends. They are business partners. Don't idolize them, hold them to account. And as consumers, we deserve better and we have to demand it.
You've trusted us and pre-ordered our game. And despite good reviews on PC, the console version of Cyberpunk 2077 did not meet the quality standard we wanted it to meet. I and the entire leadership team are deeply sorry for this, and this video is me publicly owning up to that.
Do not be sorry.